My name is Eric Rogerson, and today I'm going to be talking to you about various techniques regarding fingerstyle guitar. To begin this lesson, we're going to be talking about the tools involved in the practice. These are the thumb, which we will know as P in classical notation, the index finger, which is I for indus, the thumb incidentally is pulgar, indus, the middle finger, medio, and the ring finger is called the annular finger. And they are each represented by a letter in classical notation. These letters are P, I, and A. The first example that we are going to be looking at would be a sample that I brought in from Leo Brouwer's Etudios Silencios, essentially simple etudes for guitar. But the name of the volume is kind of misleading in certain ways. It's essentially a great resource for us as guitar players to develop our right hands, left hands, and various other things. The book, he will zone in on different topics like legato playing, like playing notes to their full duration, all of which employed through the use of the right hand is the primary attack in the instrument that is guitar, rather than the plectrum that you will always hear at a certain level, regardless of your volume. Regardless, you're still going to hear faintly on that waveform. That is, like every sound that is produced has overtones. The pick is introducing a percussive sound to the attack of the pitch. It's essentially adding a different note, even. Using the right hand, you can either achieve fleshier sounds, softer sounds, varying in dynamic, using what I call free strokes, where your finger after, let's just use for the sake of this, our first two fingers, our indus and medio fingers, and just play the B in each strings, just alternating between them. And sustaining these notes for their full duration, letting both of them ring out the whole time. And the only thing that ends the note is the attack of it a second time. To conclude, this is the implementation of free strokes. Alternative to free strokes are rest strokes, which aren't always employed, but you need to know what they are. So when they come up in certain situations, how to employ them. A rest stroke is where your finger immediately after plucking the string rests on the string above it. So for instance, comes from classical guitars, where you have more control over the amount of sustain on the instrument and the shape from which it projects. If you want to learn more about just the sonics of the guitar, there's an interesting TED Talk by Paul Reed Smith. Within the talk, he speaks about resonance and how you have more sustain on the instrument if it could breathe. Hence the idea of rest strokes, where you're temporarily suspending that. This following example that we're going to work at, Etude number 6, Etudios Silencios by Leo Brouwer. He's a noted guitar composer of Cuban descent. This is just basic. It's A major with a sharp 11. So, with the 8 string. So, let's just loop this first bar of this exercise very slow. This will be the chord and up. That means there are 4 beats to a pulse. The trickiest part of the phrase, which I'm even having trouble talking and playing, is that last 8th note going into the sustained low A Concentrate on getting that very even. And keeping a relaxed motion in your right hand. A lot of people have the tendency with right hand playing to kind of clench. That's not what you want to do. What you want to do is use more of this action rather than something like this, which can lead to hand problems and potential muscle damage. We're going to try and play through the exercise. What are some things that you may have noticed upon looking at this chart? I myself would have noticed that there's no key signature, and that there are a lot of accidentals in the piece to be wary of, and that there's also a constant right hand picking pattern. The idea for this is to do this at slow tempos, and from it develop fluidity and dexterity and familiarity with these muscles on our right hand that we don't often use in the same way that we might with left hand playing. All of that stuff is happening on a day-to-day basis in jazz playing, but you might not be playing with your fingers every day. You might just be using a pick. But these are all things that you can employ in your comping, like we'll start the exercise at the modest pace of 40 beats per minute. But everyone just take a deep breath, and we are going to just concentrate on evenness. So in 3 beats we're in. 1, 2, 3. Okay, right there. So,
good one.
Did anyone here find themselves varying from the picking pattern?
Yep.
Yes. It tends to happen. When you see different shapes, often we make connections between things that we see visually and our right hand in just ways that we're used to doing it. I, for a long time, played with pick and fingers, and I would look at a piece like this, and I would get very confused. And the way I went about advancing my playing in fingerstyle guitar was realizing, and the realization that I needed to slow it down and just work on the basic mechanics of it. This exercise works you through a series of changes that descend, and more or less it's harmonically interesting material, and from it you can gain just fluidity and like just working. It's almost a left hand legato exercise at the same time. Is there parts, say, like the third line down. Do you see it? Like just here. Yeah. I played that wrong, so. Just from the fourth system, sorry everyone. Just this part. the idea is once you get that pattern going, this 2/4 section breaks the pattern and makes you become consciously aware of which digits are moving at which time. And just gaining familiarity with this particular exercise is very beneficial for the fingerstyle guitarist. Does everyone have the handout? It's Dusan, Bogdanovic, Polyrhythmic and Polymetric Studies. It's not so polymetric in the pages that we're looking at. Dusan Bogdanovic is a solo guitar composer, kind of spoken about in the same breaths as people like Leo Brouwer and Sergio Assad, these kind of modern solo guitar players that utilize harmony that is not unlike that of jazz. But in order to be able to facilitate some of these different rhythmic ideas that we've learned in jazz, I believe it's beneficial as a guitarist to be able to read two lines. And it's an essential part of reading music for guitar. Let's just start briefly with these phasing exercises. On the first page, the idea is to play the exercise repeatedly, then move on to the next one and do the same idea. See, we're on B now. Does everyone see how you are reading two lines here? Like the top line, traditionally in standard classical guitar notation, is written upwards. And these notes are generally played by the right hand. If it's of particular significance to the composer, they will likely write in a right hand fingering. For a phasing exercise like this, it's kind of implied that you can work out your own thing and it's kind of self-explanatory. Let's work though on the idea of exercise number 4, where we are grouping free strokes. I'll play the exercise once, and then everyone, I want you to play it back to me, and repeat, and I'll play along with you. So. Does everyone see what's happening here? The time signature should be kind of interesting to you. 1/4 over 3/16. It's grouping threes over dotted quarters. Well, dotted eighths rather, sorry. This idea is basically to break you out of the context of playing. A lot of classical guitar repertoire is very downbeat oriented. That last exercise that we played, as much as it's a great voice leading exercise, you see how the picking pattern very much starts on 1. Da 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 da. To conclude this, I'm going to bring us to exercise number 5. You see eighth notes in the top voice grouped in threes, which will be played like this, like on your 4th finger. Well, the 4th fret on the G, rather. Does everyone see the idea of what's happening here? The idea of these exercises is to take your hand and take it out of a repetitive movement. A lot of people, when they learn fingerstyle playing, for instance, will, and for 20 years, that's what that guy plays. You now have 2 pages of variations at your disposal from our good friend Dusan Bogdan. Everyone? So essentially, what we have here is 3 and 2 happening over 3s. So we have a 5-beat cycle happening over a 3-beat cycle. And a lot of this is just good for your brain. You're thinking about music, and you're thinking about math at the same time. Connection between hemispheres mentally, stimulation of neurotransmitters. A lot of good things happening with this process. How does everyone feel about that exercise? Does everyone see what's going on, and everyone comfortable playing it, at least to an extent? No? Yes? Okay, very. Okay, we're going to play through it one final time, exercise number 5, just to get the idea, and try and think of the fact that there's 3s and 2s happening in the bass. At the modest tempo of 32, we will proceed. Exercise number 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. More or less everyone sees the idea of the exercise, and essentially you're employing your fine motor skills, and it's an interesting way to approach the instrument. It gives you more dynamic range, as we spoke about. Like on the fingerstyle guitar. I cheated there and used my pinky, but essentially the idea of having this dexterity behind your playing in a jazz context can lend itself well to duo playing as well as solo guitar playing.